John Wick Chapter 4 has entered theatres in a gloriously action-packed way, with both conclusions to main characters and a signal for a bright future in the franchise. It's a film with not just some of the best action in the series, but also some of the most well-choreographed and thrilling action scenes ever put to screen, as we follow John Wick and his path for freedom, death, or maybe both. We get a shocking ending and a setup of where things could be going in both upcoming series and feature films. In this explained analysis, I'm going to be giving you my breakdown of the John Wick Chapter 4 ending, discussing all the big moments, and whether there could be a John Wick 5. There will be spoilers in this video, so if you haven't watched the film yet, then I would recommend checking it out before watching my analysis. Before I get into it though, if you want to see more videos on John Wick Chapter 4, including my video essay on the film in the coming days, then don't forget to support this upload by giving it a like rating, subscribing to the channel, and turning on your notifications. But without further ado, let's dive into my explained breakdown for John Wick Chapter 4. So after waiting years to see where the next film in the John Wick world would go, Keanu Reeves' unstoppable assassin is finally back, and the latest film is the most insane, action-filled and emotional one yet. Taking it back a few years, the ending of John Wick 3 included Wick being shot off the side of the Continental Hotel by Ian McShane's Winston, in what we learnt was a staged effort to create peace with the High Table after all the chaos that took place after they tried to take Wick out. Winston, being the good friend that he is, knows that John was rescued from the streets below and taken to reside with Laurence Fishburne's Bowery King. And there we learnt that the weakened duo were prepared to wage an epic war with the table. In Chapter 4, we pick up with the both of them, now healed, entering the film to a boxing-esque announcement by Fishburne's character that damn well gets us hyped for the redemption that's about to take place. But alongside this, the film seeks to answer that one question that this story has all been building towards, and that is whether John can finally find peace after continuously killing people to stay alive. We'll only have to wait nearly 3 hours, but the extended running time of this latest entry is totally worth it. While John suits up in a classic bulletproof suit across New York City, the High Table equally wants to see him dead. The High Table leader Marquis de Gramont, played by Bill Skarsgård, has placed a bounty on Wick's head, and it can only be removed if John replaces him on the table. And as we find out, in order to end all of this, John will eventually have to challenge the Marquis of the High Table to a one-on-one duel. So before we get to that climactic ending, let's briefly discuss what happens during the build-up to it. We start Chapter 4 by learning that John has been hunting down members of the High Table overseas, and he makes a particular journey to the desert to kill the Elder, who has now been replaced by the previous Elder from Chapter 3 in an effort to clear his name. We and John are reminded that he can't clear his name because he's been excommunicated. While he's busy shooting the Elder, the High Table is busy making their move in New York City. Winston pays a visit to the Marquis, who, in an effort to destabilize the chaos that took place in Chapter 3, blows up the New York Continental and kills Lance Reddick's Charon. It's a sad scene knowing that the actor passed away a few days ago, but a funeral scene that follows makes it known that no one will forget him and that his character's memory will live on. Before John can come back to find out what's happened though, Marquis has also been busy hiring 2 skilled assassins in Mr. Nobody and Donnie Yen's Kane to track him down. Yen's character is doing this because his daughter's life is being threatened by the table, and Mr. Nobody, as we learn throughout the events of the film, has a lot of secret financial problems that he's trying to take care of. He plays with the Marquis' assassination offer by steadily asking for more money if he does succeed in killing Wick. So with this all put in place, it's clear that Wick has very few allies and friends, but one of those those remaining friends who we have yet to see in the John Wick franchise is Hiroyuki Sanada's Koji, the manager of the Osaka Continental Hotel. The introduction of him is how Donnie Yen's Kane is able to catch up with Wick because he knows that Koji is one of the remaining assassins that would protect him. He's right on that guess because we soon see that Wick has turned up at the Japanese Continental seeking the help of Koji and his deadly daughter Akira. They barely have time to catch up on what they've been up to in the years since they last met because Kane shows up with the High Table Army to kill Wick. Again, we learn that Kane doesn't want to fight or kill either Koji, his daughter, or John Wick, but the fate of his daughter is what's at stake for him. And that's where the first extended action scene begins, and it involves much of the High Table's men being killed by John, an initial fight between Wick and Kane, and Mr. Nobody delaying the outcome of that fight by trying to keep Wick alive for himself so that he can raise his bounty first. In the midst of all of this, Koji's daughter Akira was shot and is eventually forced to watch Kane kill her father Koji as he helps John get away. Kane has no intention of hurting Akira and says that he'll be waiting for her revenge, which is quite the bad idea if we consider what happens in Chapter 4's post-credit scene. But I'll come back to that towards the end of my breakdown. Anyway, with John escaping the chaos at the Osaka Continental, when he returns to New York, he is told by Winston that he must earn a seat on the High Table by challenging Marquis to a one-on-one duel in correspondence with the old ways. Before he can do that, he has to be a part of a crime family within the High Table's system because currently he's excommunicado, and this leads him to make a long journey to Berlin. So John travels to Berlin and finds the Ruska Roma headquarters there, trying to bargain with the family's leader. He finds out that the man was killed by the High Table's senior member Killa, played by Scott Adkins, as a consequence of John getting help to escape in Chapter 3 and killing the Elder at the start of Chapter 4. So the Ruska leader was punished because of John's actions, and he now has to buy his way back into the family by killing Adkins' killer himself. John is able to earn their blessing, and it comes after another brutal and somewhat beautiful rain-filled club scene, killing the High Table man and his army with the partial help of Kane and Mr. Nobody. Again, Mr. Nobody doesn't take his chance to kill John following that fight in an effort to raise his bounty with the High Table. So with John now earned his way back into the Ruska Roma, his journey leads him to his final destination in Paris, where he will be able to request that one-on-one duel with the Marquis. They have a meeting before the Statue of Liberty where he officially challenges Marquis to a duel, and in the process, Winston becomes his second, with Marquis claiming Kane as his fighter. So it turns out that John will now fight Kane in the duel, and the battle is set to take place at the Sacré-Cœur in accordance with the old ways. This means that they will separate by 30 paces and duel with antique pistols like we commonly see in Western films. At the meeting, Winston says that if John wins the duel, both he and the New York Continental will be reinstated, but if he loses, then both John and Winston are dead, and Kane ensures his daughter's survival. So there's definitely a lot at stake in this final duel, and if we consider the final 40 minutes of the film, it's one that pays off in glorious fashion. During Chapter 4's long final battle, we watch as John wages war and fights his way through numerous parts of Paris, killing hundreds of bounty hunters hired by the Marquis. This is in an effort to kill John before he can even reach the Sacré-Cœur when the sun comes up the next morning. It results in probably the best 40 minutes of action I've seen in a film in many years, and it's split into a 3-part fight, one on the streets and roads, one in buildings, and one part up the 200 steps on the famous Montmartre stairs. Wick is ambushed at every corner while racing against time to make it to the organised duel, and he even comes up against Mr. Nobody, who now has the opportunity to get more than enough money in killing Wick. But that pursuit is soon put to an end when John saves his dog from being killed by a High Table goon, making him have a change of heart. It's as if the franchise is reminding us of how this all started and the reasons why John really took took up this line of work once again. Anyway, after surviving a hellish traffic sequence and bounty hunters using dragon breath shotguns, John finally has to fight his way up the famous staircase, coming up against another 100 assassins. After he nearly reaches the top, John is pushed all the way back down by returning assassin Chidi, who is also the second in command of the Marquis. But at the bottom of the steps, John is eventually helped by Kane, who wants a fair duel with him, so they both fight the men together, and halfway back up the staircase, Mr. Nobody saves John with his attack dog. John spares his life, and Mr. Nobody decides to join them up at the church in order to watch the duel unfold. So both Kane and Wick arrive at the church just as the sun begins to rise, and the Marquis is seen there with Winston and Clancy Brown's Harbinger to finally kick things off. This brings us to that climactic duel that the events of the film have been building towards, and both the intensity of it and its purpose cannot be understated. Both Wick and Kane are given antique guns, free bullets, and are instructed to walk paces apart from each other, aim their guns, and then shoot. At the first interval of this western-like shootout, they both graze each other with their shots. They then walk a few paces closer, reload, and fire again. Again, they both suffer brutal injuries, but no one is yet killed. They walk 5 more paces, now standing closer together, and fire, and at the final shot, we see that John Wick has been hit in the chest, with Kane following his successful shot by asking the Marquis if his work for the High Table is now finished and his daughter is safe. The Marquis confirms this, grabs his gun and aims it at John, thinking it's now safe to personally execute him once and for all. But while John has suffered a deadly injury, we and Marquis learn that John did not fire his gun in the final round of the duel. Winston distracts the Marquis to reveal just that, and John eventually uses his last bullet to kill Marquis and officially wins the duel. So with it all finally come to an end, Kane leaves to find his daughter, and Winston is updated on what will happen next. He is told by the High Table's Harbinger, played by Clancy Brown, that he is to be reinstated along with his rebuilt New York Continental, and that John Wick is now a free man, and the issues that he's had with the table have come to an end. This is of course great news for John and all of us, but our favourite gunfu specialist has already sustained mortal wounds, and that shot that he had taken to the chest appears to be the killing round. While Wick bleeds out on the steps of the Sacré-Cœur, Winston promises him that he will bring his body home. We fade out and transition back to New York, where we see that John Wick has been buried, with his headstone placed next to his wife's, reading "Loving Husband," just as he asked Winston to do for him earlier on. So all the pain that he felt and all the death that he caused and even dealt with has led back to the everlasting love that he had with his wife. Winston and the Bowery King do discuss in this final scene whether John went to heaven or hell, and ultimately leave on the answer of not knowing. Of course, John Wick did die halfway down the staircase, not quite at the top near the church, or not down at the bottom where all the death lies. So it's left as an open question for the audience to decide on. But in the end, he's now a legend who got his freedom through death, and went out on his own terms over being killed. Nothing could kill him unless he allowed it to happen, and the waves of enemies and action scenes in the build-up to his allowing death touch on that very central idea. So with John Wick dead, Chapter 4 has now closed the story on its main anti-hero, but as teased before, we learn that the franchise is not close to being done with its thrilling action tales just yet. While none of the other John Wick films had a post-credit scene, Chapter 4 has a very teasing moment at the end of the credits. The after-credit scene takes place not long after the fateful duel at the church, and we learn that Marquis' death has set Kane and his daughter free following the threats against her life during the course of the film. Of course, Kane didn't want to kill John Wick, as they were friends from a past life, and the hold that the High Table had over his daughter was the motivation he needed to fight fight him. After making it out of the duel alive, in the credit scene, Kane is seen making his way towards his daughter in a busy city square, holding flowers and seemingly happy that he can now be with her. However, it appears that Kane is still in danger because Akira, the former concierge of the Osaka Continental, has tracked him down and wants revenge for the death of her father. She walks towards him in a hoodie as he walks towards his daughter, slips out a pocket knife, and the scene cuts to black. Earlier on in Chapter 4, John had stopped at the Osaka Continental for brief safety during the High Table's assassination attempt, and he was given protection by her father Koji, and he assisted him to fight off Marquis soldiers at the hotel. Koji stayed to battle Kane in a duel and was brutally killed, leaving John and his daughter to escape. They both had one scene together on the subway soon after the attack, and John gave his pin to Akira, which led to her telling him that she would avenge her father. So it looks like Akira will aim to kill either Kane, his daughter, or maybe the both of them as an act of revenge. While Akira has grown up learning to support the effort of the High Table by her father, we learn during these earlier action scenes that she's also more cold-blooded, and that originally she tried to tell her father that they shouldn't protect John. So now, after she's witnessed her father's death, it looks like it will set her on a path of vengeance, whether that be just for Kane or even the High Table beyond that. It's not clear whether she'll have help or not, but with her inheriting her father's place on the table, it wouldn't surprise me if Akira has more connections to help her in getting revenge. We'll have to see what happens, but right now, it's clear that they intend to continue this story in a future spin-off. And after loving the design of the Osaka Continental and loving the new characters surrounding that new location, I couldn't be more excited to see where this all goes. Now, when it comes to the idea of a John Wick 5, originally the film's director and Reeves were aiming to shoot both John Wick 4 and 5 back to back, and they were teasing that there would be one more. But around the release of Chapter 4, it's now been made clear that this installment is in fact the last film centered on John Wick. Stahelski said, "Keanu and I are done for the moment. We're going to give John Wick a rest," and in another interview, he clarified that this is indeed his last one. So with no John Wick 5 on the way, the new characters are the ones that appear to be leading this franchise forward, and Chapter 4 introduces a long lineup. One potential spin-off is again the idea that Donnie Yen's Kane will try to survive an assassination attempt from Akira. Another is Chapter 4's Mr. Nobody, who clearly is on a quest to clear his financial problems. And then there's Wick's Belarusian family and sister Katia, who definitely seem to have more story potential too. While we don't know if any of these characters will have their own spin-offs yet, the post-credit scene and their great introductions in Chapter 4 tease that there's more to come in John Wick's world, regardless of the main character being killed off. And we already know that the John Wick franchise has a bright near future ahead of it, with already announced projects coming this year too. Peacock will release the prequel series The Continental, which will follow a young Winston during his rise in a 1970s New York. And then there's also the upcoming spin-off film Ballerina, which follows female assassin Rooney, played by Ana de Armas, as she seeks vengeance on behalf of her family. Keanu Reeves, Ian McShane, and the late great Laurence Reddick are all coming back for this project, as the events of that film will be set in between John Wick 3 and 4. It's possible that this spin-off could tie into Akira and Kane's battle in some way too, but when it comes to their fight, again, we'll just have to wait and see how it's built upon. As a whole though, there's plenty of projects coming, and it looks like John Wick's story was only the beginning. But that was my breakdown and analysis for the ending of John Wick Chapter 4. Overall, this was a fantastic final entry when it comes to John Wick's tale, and while his death was fitting, the potential in expanding this world is also unparalleled. There's so many action stories that they could set both before and after the events of this chapter, and the well-introduced characters have created vast potential going forward. Saying that, it will be extremely hard to top the action scenes scenes and moments that both Stahelski and Reeves have delivered here, and I think as a whole, this was the best action film I've seen since Mad Max Fury Road back in 2015. I will be diving a lot deeper into my thoughts on the film in my upcoming video essay, which I will be posting in the next few days, so stick around for more on John Wick 4 and the rest of the franchise going forwards. But to those who have seen John Wick Chapter 4, what are your thoughts on all the events that went down? Is it your favourite in the series? And what do you think will happen in the upcoming spin-offs? Let me know down below in the comment section. For more videos on John Wick 4 and upcoming projects in the franchise, then subscribe to the channel and turn on your notifications. Also, if you enjoyed this video, remember to leave a like rating and follow me on social media via the links in the description. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I've been Cortex, and as always, make some noise.